I've only been to Russia a few times before. There's one solid conclusion I can draw about the country. It's one of the hardest places to complete contracts. The targets are usually hell to put down, and my heart feels like it's seconds away from detonating at all times. I do enjoy drinking over there, though. I managed to get some sleep on the flight over. That would have been impossible had I not been tired to the point of delusion. Our ride came in the form of a clunky old cargo plane that only had sitting space for the pilots. I think I banged my head on about 15 crates before I woke up. There's no flights to Norlix. I can't really take a government-owned aircraft without arousing suspicion, so I had to call in a favor from an old friend, the agent explained. I'm sure you could see the trepidation on my face. Look, it's the best I could do. I suppose it doesn't matter. Plane wasn't the biggest issue. It was what we were bound to see once we got off that worried me the most. Along with the agent and the pilots, there were two others in the plane with us, another SIC agent named Armin, and a Green Beret named Luke. 4 wasn't exactly the biggest team, but the agent assured me that we'd rendezvous with the rest once we got to our destination. The flight was mostly silent, and a bit awkward. So what do I call you? I asked the agent in an attempt to make small talk. You don't have to tell me your real name, just give me something so it doesn't get weird. The agent leaned his head back, as if he were thinking about it. It's Colt. It's my real name, by the way. I trust you enough. He flashed a corny grin at me. I nodded in response. Colt it is. We landed on a small airstrip in the middle of what looked like a remote field. I was hit with freezing rain the moment I stepped out of the plane, which managed to wake me up a bit. I looked around, but there was quite literally nothing surrounding us. You sure we're in the right place? Luke asked. Doesn't look like there's much going on here. Colt looked at one of the pilots, an older, wiry-looking gentleman, and nodded. The man lumbered out of the plane and began walking towards a nearby forest. This way, the man said. It's just a short walk. I underestimated what he meant by short. We walked for about 3 hours into the middle of the forest, all while lugging around 20 pounds of gear and being drenched in the ice-cold precipitation. At one point, we came across some kind of large, pill-shaped object stuck in the trees. It'll make sense later, Colt said when he saw me looking up at it. Just keep walking for now. After the arduous hike, the pilot finally stopped in a clearing and took out a metal detector. He scanned the ground for a bit before gesturing for the shovel that Colt was holding. After about a minute of digging, he uncovered something that looked like the entrance to a vault. Still there, he said, chuckling. Many bad memories here. He entered a code into the keypad, and it opened, revealing a metal ladder leading down into oblivion. He took a deep breath as he got up, before putting his hand on Colt's shoulder. I'll be waiting in the plane. Good luck, my friend. Colt nodded. 6 p.m. If we're not back by then, just leave. The pilot gave him one last glance before walking out of the clearing and out of sight. Didn't look so confident. Well, Colt said, turning on his helmet flashlight. Time to enter the belly of the beast. I couldn't tell you how long the climb down was. I just knew that my arms were jelly by the end. There was also an indescribable smell lingering in the air. It wasn't putrid, per se. It just felt like something I wasn't supposed to be breathing in. After scaling down the ladder, we found ourselves in some kind of underground military complex. It's an old KGB base, Colt explained. Repurposed for modern-day Spetsnaz training. Spetsnaz? I asked. Is that a good idea to show up unannounced? Colt looked down at his watch. If everything's gone according to plan, then we should be fine. Well, how can I not be confident when you put it like that? I muttered. He started moving, and we followed, passing through rooms that contained weightlifting equipment, shooting ranges, and mats for hand-to-hand training. Eventually, we came across the dining hall. I'll admit, I was a bit taken aback by what we found waiting for us. What the hell happened here? Luke asked. It was a bloodbath. Standing amongst the plates of spilt food and drink, there were about 20 soldiers and agents, with 5 more dead on the ground. I'd recognized roughly half as Spetsnaz, but the other half wearing generic tactical gear. I assumed the latter half were our guys. The ones who were dead were all Spetsnaz. Oh, jeez, Colt muttered as he stared at the grisly scene around him. One of the non-Spetsnaz soldiers looked over at us. He was average height and incredibly handsome, save for the gnarly scar running through one of his eyes. "The hell did you expect?" he said. "We're lucky it only got this bad." Saying that everybody looked on edge would have been an understatement. "You showed them what the serum could do, and they still didn't believe you?" Colt said, stepping forward. "Most did. Not all. We should have expected that from the start." "Well, do they believe you now?" The soldier looked over his shoulder at the group of angry Spetsnaz behind him. He nodded at them. A few nodded back, and a few cursed at him in Russian. "I mean, I guess. They've stopped trying to kill us, at least, so we stopped killing them." Colt sighed, shook his head. "Fuck's sake, Visor," he muttered, before gesturing to Luke, Armin, and I. "In any case, these are the new guys, all quite capable, if I do say so myself." "They're on the serum?" the soldier, whose name was apparently Visor, asked. Colt nodded. The soldier walked forward and extended his arm, shaking each of our hands in quick succession. "Like Colt mentioned, the name's Visor," he said. "I'm glad you guys chose to be part of this. We need all the help we can get." He went on to fill us in on what was happening. Similar to Colt, Visor was an SAC agent acting as a mole inside of Kane's faction. After some lingering, he became privy to the time and location of Kane's second attack. The first one was in the US at a cult base. The second, in Russia, at a Spetsnaz complex. The Russian government was led to believe that aliens had landed on Earth and subsequently slaughtered an entire unit of their soldiers. Kane's plan to make the world believe they were in imminent danger would become one step closer to a reality. "So the object in the forest," I said. "That's supposed to be the UFO, isn't it? It was planted there." Visor nodded. "Can't be more correct. The man's running an intricate operation, which is why we've got to put a wrench into it as fast and as hard as we can." "So what happens next?" Luke asked. "In about an hour, Kane's forces are going to storm the place," Visor responded. "They're going to do the same thing they did at your team," Colt added. "Have his super soldiers kill all the Spetsnaz and then inject them with a neurotic agent. The deadly aliens strike again, and nobody's safe, not even some of the most skilled soldiers in the world. The U.S. government will eventually find out and compare the incident to what happened in Montana," Visor continued, "and it's going to keep happening all around the world until there's only one conclusion left to draw." "We tried explaining the situation," another non-Spetsnaz soldier added, "but like hell they were going to believe us. Our Russian's also pretty rusty. I think some things got lost in translation." "We believe you now," one of the Spetsnaz said in English, stepping forward, "but only for now. If what you're saying does not happen," his face suddenly morphed into a vicious sneer, "well, you've killed 5 of my men. I don't care what drugs you've been taking. To become so strong, we will fight back." I found one of the Spetsnaz in the back shout something to the effect of, "And you couldn't bring any for us?" "Sounds good, Chief," Visor replied, ignoring the outburst. "But I promise you, we're saving lives here." The Russian soldier didn't seem impressed. Nevertheless, he stepped back for the time being. "So from what it sounds like, they won't be expecting us, right?" Armin asked. I think it would be the first time I'd ever heard him speak. Visor nodded affirmingly. "Good," Karman responded. "Makes our job simpler." "What's the size of the force coming for us?" I asked. "That's something I can't confirm," Visor responded. "But we've got 12 guys on the serum here. We should be fine." I nearly forgot about that. The enemy was superhuman, but so were we. "So what are these?" I asked, holding up my rifle. "Decorations?" Visor grinned. "We're going old school, baby." He rolled up his sleeves, showed off his wrapped wrists. "I hope you've kept up with your hand-to-hand training." The rest of the soldiers followed suit, dropping their weapons and beginning to stretch out their limbs. There's a reason I preferred assassinations from a distance. I wasn't a fan of getting punched in the face and tossed into walls, but I suppose there's no getting out of this one. Visor walked over and tossed me a set of hand wraps. We might hit hard, but we're hitting pretty hard targets as well. Don't want any broken wrists. Spetsnaz soldiers hung back as the rest of us moved into the front. I already knew I was going to be hurting like hell by the end, so I prepared myself mentally. I'd been pummeled to near death a few times before, and I couldn't really afford to lose any more brain cells. Visor tapped his wrist as the hour dwindled. Soon enough, we started hearing movement coming from the corridor up ahead. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and clenched my fists. I told myself that I was about to do something good. Something that would benefit humanity in the long run. For a moment, that made me feel better. That feeling faded quickly when I looked at what had appeared in front of us. A horde of unfathomable creatures had gathered at the dining hall entrance. Their dark gray bodies were centipede-like, with a sizable stinger at the end of their tails. Their torsos were thick and slimy, with 4 veiny, beefy arms attached to the sides. Their fists were the size of bowling balls. They had 2 circular mouths, lined with sharp teeth on either side of their face, with 3 sets of glowing, piercing eyes on top. Their hair were wild and spiky, almost like blades jutting out from the top of their heads. Of course, none of us knew how to react. I looked over, watching as Colt's expression turned blank. What the fuck? Before he could even finish the sentence, the creatures began to charge us, shrieking so loud it felt like my brain was shaking. Safe to say, I don't think this was part of the plan. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I want to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. I really appreciate it, and anytime you guys give me a subscribe or a follow or a like or a comment or literally just a watch, I can't thank you enough for it because you're the reason I keep making episodes and you guys are the reason that I love horror as much as I do. We're in the middle of summer, and I'm from Texas, which means that it's a great time for iced tea. And you know who makes iced tea? My wife. My wife sells tea. My wife sells tea on Etsy.com/shop/ivorymonocletea. And if you want to get the MrCreepyPasta special, you can order a dark and stormy night and specifically request a dabbing sticker that you only get if you ask for it. And as always, I want to give a very special thanks to all of my patrons at patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, because you guys are the reasons I get to keep my lights on in the house and get wonderful little treats for my cats and everything like that. And also the reason why we keep getting special custom series just for the channel. So a special thanks to Jacob Shaffer, Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Bryon, Arce, Ken Lando Higuchi, Bobby Karman, Tristain, Pelton, Chase Burnett, Bardo Hawk 764, TheBananaMafia 1, Melancholy Corpse, Hollow Zero, Ferb, Harley, Billy Morrow, Katie Birch, Sashi Sazaku, Kayden the Spooky Boy, MyBodySoundsLikeRiceKrispys, AshWood, Lord of the Weebs, Jay, Feyelocket, Miss Xandra, MrUnsettlingSpaghetti, Eurogore, Suji Campbell, Marco Takes Dabs 420, Stricken, Ozarine Fox, Robert White, Andres Garcia, Snails Brennan, Legit Quad Feed, James Bruce, Chris Lovins, Freddy Krueger, Tynam, Justin Johnson, Michael Scarborough, Infernal One, James Lowe, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Jordan Els, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Cryptic Nightmares, Someone You Love, Kiri the Sloth, Tommy Green, Sky Harbor, Caleb Dougal, Nina Smith, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, Trace Miles, Corey Kenshin, and Peaceful Buddha. That's right guys, at patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, you could join this amazing list of people's names I mispronounce and the list of Patreons down there in the description. But of course, none of that is ever required. I just appreciate you guys subscribing and watching and honestly being here. So to all of you, sweet dreams.